Take off your clothes. The command sliced through the air like a knife. Amara felt her entire body go rigid, her pulse hammering so loud she was certain they could hear it. The words hung there in the penthouse study, suspended between the scent of aged bourbon and the sound of Seoul's midnight rain battering against windows that stretched from floor to ceiling. She stood paralyzed, her simple cotton dress suddenly feeling transparent under the weight of two identical stares, one cold enough to freeze blood, the other hot enough to burn skin. "You're joking," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Lee Mi-ho sat motionless in his leather chair, fingers pressed together like he was praying, though nothing about him suggested faith in anything but calculated outcomes. His twin, Lee Juno, circled her slowly, each footfall silent against expensive carpet, yet she felt every step reverberate through her chest like a drum. "We've been over this," Mi-ho said, his tone surgical. "The consummation isn't optional. It's necessity. Once you're completely ours," Juno added, stopping directly behind her, close enough that his breath ghosted across her neck. "Killing you becomes an act of war. Even he wouldn't dare. The faceless enemy. The man who wanted her dead. The ghost who sent killers in the dark and moved through Seoul's criminal underworld like smoke. You're talking about..." Amara couldn't finish. Heat flooded her face despite the Arctic air conditioning. "Both of us," Mi-ho supplied, rising from his chair with predatory grace. At the same time, the room spun. Amara gripped the desk's edge, her knuckles draining of color. "I can't. I've never." "We know." Juno's hand settled on her waist, possessive and claiming. 21. Nigerian, Christian, virgin. "We know everything about you, Amara." Thunder exploded outside, and the lights stuttered. In that flash of darkness, she saw them clearly. Two halves of something terrifying and whole. Mi-ho, the architect who thought in chess moves and probability matrices. Juno, the weapon who spoke in violence and certainty. And her, caught between them like a butterfly pinned to display. "This isn't," her voice fractured. "This isn't what I wanted. Any of this." Mi-ho closed the distance, and when he spoke, his voice carried an almost gentleness that made it worse. "What you wanted stopped mattering the night you chose to save my life." Juno's grip tightened on her waist. "Now you belong to us. Both of us. And we protect what's ours," they said together, their voices braiding into something that sounded like a vow and a threat. Amara squeezed her eyes shut, tears burning behind her lids. One question screamed through her mind. How did helping a bleeding stranger in an alley lead to this? But before we dive into how Amara ended up in this impossible situation, I need you to do something. Hit that subscribe button and smash the like if you've ever helped someone without knowing the consequences, because what comes next will completely shatter everything you think you know about this story. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and trust me, the twist in this story will leave you speechless. 3 weeks earlier, Seoul Garden Restaurant's fluorescent lights buzzed at 2:47 a.m., casting sickly yellow across tables still reeking of kimchi stew and soju. Amara wiped down the last booth, her spine screaming from 11 hours on her feet. "Juide," she muttered in broken Korean, correcting her Igbo. Almost done. Her reflection in the rain-streaked window showed what 2 years in Seoul had carved from her. 10 kilos lighter, shadows under her eyes deep enough to hold secrets. At 21, she looked simultaneously younger and older. Young in her full cheeks and bright eyes, old in the way her shoulders curved inward, protecting a heart that had learned to expect betrayal. The kitchen timer shrieked. Mr. Park, her manager, grunted from his back office, her signal to leave. Amara grabbed her backpack stuffed with nursing textbooks she was too exhausted to open and pushed through the back door into Seoul's relentless night. The walk to her shared room took 40 minutes through streets that pulsed with neon and noise, beautiful in the way sharp things are beautiful. Seoul didn't care about struggling immigrant girls navigating its veins. Amara kept her head down, practiced at invisibility. Immigration officers swept Itaewon on Friday nights, and her student visa dangled by a thread. She thought about her mother as she walked, about Mama back in Lagos whose hands trembled now from the Parkinson's that Nigerian hospitals couldn't properly treat. Every one Amara sent home was a prayer. "Hold on. I'm coming. Just hold on. 2 more years of nursing school," she whispered like a spell. "Then I can bring her here. 2 more years." The shoebox apartment she shared with 3 other Nigerian girls was dark when she arrived. Chidinma, Ngozi, and Blessing were already asleep, their breathing creating a symphony of exhaustion. Amara changed silently, ate cold jollof rice straight from the container, and collapsed onto her floor mat. Sleep came in fragments. Ngozi's snoring, the couple fighting upstairs in rapid Korean, the sound of her own dreams breaking. Saturday meant double shifts. Morning at the restaurant, evening at a Gangnam convenience store where she restocked shelves and smiled at customers who looked through her like she was made of glass. Between jobs, she attended nursing lectures, taking notes in a mixture of English and Korean. Her handwriting deteriorating as exhaustion accumulated like debt. Amara. Her roommate Chidinma caught her after class, worry creasing her forehead. Sister, you look like death walked over. When did you last sleep more than 4 hours? I'm fine. You're killing yourself. Chidinma grabbed her arm. This country doesn't care about us. Stay invisible. Work, study, survive. Don't be a hero. Amara managed a smile she didn't feel. Who said anything about being a hero? But that was the thing about Amara. She'd never learned to look away from suffering. It's why she'd chosen nursing. Why she sent money home that she desperately needed. Why she'd given her lunch to a homeless woman last week, even though it meant going hungry until dinner. Mama used to say, Umuan niji buichide lakota. Your sibling is your responsibility. Amara had taken it as gospel. The rain started during her convenience store shift, transforming Seoul's streets into rivers of reflected light. By the time she returned to the restaurant for the night shift, the storm was biblical. The kind of rain that made you forget what dry felt like. Mr. Park thrust trash bags at her. Back alley. Quick. Amara nodded, pulling her thin jacket tighter. The back exit opened onto a narrow alley that smelled of fermented vegetables and broken dreams. She'd made this trip 1,000 times, could navigate it blind. Tonight was different. The sound reached her first, low, animal, desperate. A groan that spoke of pain too deep for words. Every survival instinct screamed, run. This was how girls like her disappeared in foreign countries. This was how you became a cautionary tale. But the groan came again, weaker, and Amara's feet betrayed her better judgment. She found him slumped against the dumpster, expensive suit soaked black with rain and blood. So much blood. Oh, Jesus, she breathed, dropping to her knees beside him. Guanchin Heyo, are you okay? Stupid question. He clearly wasn't okay. The knife wounds in his abdomen were deep, professional, designed to kill slowly. His eyes opened, fever bright, beautiful, terrified. Don't, he gasped in perfect Korean. Don't call anyone. They'll kill you too. Amara stared at this dying stranger who should have been at a nightclub or boardroom, not bleeding out in her alley. At his face that looked carved from marble, all sharp angles and aristocratic bones. At the way he looked at her like she was his last prayer. Mama's voice echoed. Your sibling is your responsibility. Okay, Amara said, making the decision that would shatter her life into before and after. Okay, I won't call anyone. But we need to get you inside. She didn't know she'd just saved the wrong man. She didn't know she'd doomed herself to become the wife of monsters. All she knew was someone was dying, and she was the only one who'd stopped to care. Amara had practiced on dummies in nursing school, weighted mannequins designed to simulate real patients. But those hadn't bled. Those hadn't groaned with every inch moved. Those hadn't looked at her with eyes that held secrets dark enough to drown in. Come on, she grunted, hooking her arms under his shoulders. He was solid muscle under expensive fabric. Help me, please. He tried. God, he tried. His legs scraped against wet concrete as she dragged him toward the restaurant's back door. His blood painting a trail like breadcrumbs in a nightmare. The storage room was cramped and windowless, stacked with rice bags and industrial kimchi containers. Amara kicked the door shut and lowered him as gently as possible against the wall. Under the harsh bulb's light, she saw the damage clearly. 3 stab wounds. Professional. Shit, she whispered, hands shaking as she grabbed clean towels from the linen shelf. Go, he rasped, trying to push her away with blood-slicked hands. Run. Run from what? Helping someone. Amara pressed a towel against the worst wound, applying pressure the way her textbooks taught. He hissed through clenched teeth. I'm not leaving you to die. You don't understand. His Korean was flawless, nothing like her halting syllables. The people who did this, they don't leave witnesses. Good thing I didn't witness anything. She met his fever-bright eyes, pain-glazed, beautiful in a way that made her throat tight. I found you after. That's all. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or disbelief that anyone could be this reckless. Amara grabbed the bottle of soju Mr. Park kept hidden behind the rice cooker. This will hurt. Everything hurts. She poured alcohol directly into the wounds. His back arched, a scream trapped behind his teeth, every muscle rigid. Amara worked fast, nursing training taking over. Clean pressure check for arterial bleeding. Her uniform soaked crimson. Her hands steady despite terror singing through her veins. What's your name? She asked, desperate to keep him conscious. Does it matter? Yes. She wadded fresh towels against his abdomen, using her full weight to maintain pressure. Their faces were inches apart, her braids falling forward to curtain them. If you die, I want to know who I tried to save. His laugh was bitter, breathless. Lee Miho. Amara Okafor. Nigerian. Is this really the time for small talk? Probably not. His hand found hers where it pressed against his wounds. His grip surprisingly strong. Why are you doing this, Amara Okafor? Because I'm an idiot, she thought. Because Mama taught me to care for my siblings. Because you looked at me like I was your last hope. And I've never learned to look away from hope. Because no one deserves to die alone in an alley, she said instead. Miho stared at her like she was an alien species, like kindness was a language he'd forgotten. Most people would have run. From the blood. From me. I'm not most people. No. His eyes started drifting closed. You're not. Stay with me. Amara tapped his cheek gently. Miho, stay awake. But consciousness was slipping away like water through fingers. His hand fell from hers. His breathing went shallow, erratic. Amara kept pressure on the wounds, counting heartbeats, monitoring his pulse. Medical school taught theory. Tonight taught reality. How blood smelled metallic and wrong. How human bodies were both fragile and stubbornly resilient. How 3 a.m. in a storage room could stretch into eternity. She talked to him even after he passed out. Told him about Lagos, about her mother. About the first time she saw Seoul's lights and thought she'd landed in a city made of stars. Told him he couldn't die because she'd gone through too much trouble saving him. And she was terrible at accepting failure. 3 hours passed. The bleeding slowed. His color improved from death pale to merely corpse gray. Around 5 a.m. His eyes fluttered open. You're still here, he said, voice raw with wonder. Where else would I be? Miho tried to sit up, failed. Settled for studying her face like he was memorizing evidence. You shouldn't have stayed. Probably not. They saw you. The men who did this. They saw you in the alley. Amara's blood froze. There was someone running past when I came outside. I didn't. You saw his face. Maybe. I don't know. It was dark, raining. Miho closed his eyes. Something like resignation settling over his features. Then we're both dead. Before Amara could ask what he meant, he'd passed out again. She stayed until dawn, until Mr. Park's keys rattled in the front lock. Then she cleaned frantically, scrubbing blood from concrete with bleach and prayers. When she returned an hour later, Miho was gone. Nothing remained except stains she'd tell Mr. Park were from spoiled meat, and a business card tucked under the rice bags where only she would find it. No name. Just a phone number and 2 words in English. Stay safe. Amara threw the card away and tried to forget. For exactly 19 hours she succeeded. Saturday evening. Dinner rush beginning. Then they walked in. 2 men. Identical. Beautiful and terrifying in the way apex predators are beautiful. All sharp lines and controlled grace. Expensive suits that probably cost more than her yearly tuition. One wore all black, the other charcoal gray. The restaurant went silent. Amara's tray slipped from nerveless fingers, sending banchan dishes clattering across tile. Because she recognized the one in gray. Those fever-bright eyes that had looked at her like she was salvation. That face she'd held between her bloody hands. Oh. His twin, it had to be his twin. surveyed the room with cold precision before his gaze landed on her. "This is the girl," Miho said quietly with certainty. "She saved my life." The twins' smile was a razor blade. Then she signed her death warrant. Amara ran through the kitchen toward the back exit, her breath coming in panicked gasps. She made it 3 steps into the alley before iron hands caught her waist. "Don't fight," the twin murmured against her ear, almost gentle. "It'll only make this harder." A black sedan materialized from nowhere. Strong hands, the twins' hands, she'd learned they belonged to Juno, guided her into the back seat with practiced efficiency. The door closed with the finality of a coffin lid. As Soul's lights blurred past tinted windows, Amara realized the truth. Saving a dying man hadn't been mercy. It had been suicide in slow motion. And the worst part, she couldn't even regret it. The bedroom was bigger than her entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Seoul like a kingdom spread at her feet. The bed could sleep 5. The bathroom had heated floors and a tub large enough to drown in. It was a cage dressed in silk and marble. Amara spent the first night testing every exit. The door locked from outside. The windows were bulletproof, wouldn't open. The bathroom vent too small even for her. By dawn she'd exhausted every option and collapsed on the floor, too wary of the bed, too proud for tears. Twins came at 8 a.m. sharp. Miho entered first. Carrying a breakfast tray like this was a hotel and not a kidnapping. Juno followed, leaning against the doorframe with predatory casualness. In daylight, their differences sharpened. Miho moved like still water, smooth, measured, deep. Juno moved like lightning looking for a place to strike. "Eat," Miho said, setting the tray on the nightstand. "Go to hell." Juno's laugh was sharp as broken glass. "Already there, princess. Question is whether you're joining us or becoming a permanent resident." Amara's hands clenched. "You can't keep me here. I have school, work, people who'll report me missing. Already handled." Miho sat in the leather armchair like a king holding court, all elegant lines and hidden threat. "Your manager thinks you returned to Nigeria for a family emergency. Your roommates received texts from your phone explaining the same. Your university has a medical withdrawal on file." The air left her lungs. "You can't just erase my life. We just did." Juno pushed off the doorframe, circling her with restless energy. All coiled violence looking for release. "Because the alternative is your body washing up in the Han River." "Subtle," Miho murmured. "She should know what we saved her from." "Saved?" Amara's voice cracked. "You kidnapped me." "Protected you," Miho corrected, his eyes tracking her like a chess master calculating moves. "The men who stabbed me saw your face. They think you're involved with us now. Do you understand what that means? That you've made me a target because I helped you?" "Yes." No apology in his voice, just cold fact. "In our world, witnesses don't survive. The only reason you're breathing is because killing you would answer questions we're not ready to ask yet." Amara's mind raced. Our world. She'd heard rumors, every immigrant in Seoul had, about criminal organizations running shadow kingdoms beneath the city's glittering surface. "Who are you?" she whispered. The twins exchanged a look, an entire conversation in a glance. "Lee Miho," the one in gray said. "Lee Juno," the one in black added. Heirs to the Lee family. They finished in unison, their voices braiding together like a curse. The organization that controls half of Seoul's underworld. The room tilted. Amara grabbed the bedpost for balance. "Our father is Don Lee Jae-sung," Miho continued. "Our mother was Lee Ji-woo, killed by rivals when we were 16. We've been groomed since childhood to be ruthless, strategic, and above all united. Nothing breaks us apart," Juno added, something fierce and territorial in his tone. "Not enemies, not family, nothing." "Then why are you telling me this?" "Because you need to understand the rules." Miho leaned forward, elbows on knees, intensity suddenly focused entirely on her. "Rule 1, you don't leave this estate. Rule 2, you speak to no one without our permission. Rule 3, I'm not following any rules." Amara's fear crystallized into fury. "You don't own me." "Actually," Juno said, his smile dangerous, "that's precisely the problem we're here to solve." Over the next week, Amara learned the prison's rhythms. Guards changed shifts every 6 hours. 3 meals delivered to her room. The twins visited daily, always together, never trusting her alone with either one. She tried escaping twice. First time she made it to the garden before guards caught her. Second time she triggered silent alarms before reaching the front gate. Both times Juno carried her back. Not roughly, but with the efficiency of someone handling a stubborn cat. "You're wasting energy," he told her the second time, depositing her on the bed. 40 guards on this estate. Cameras everywhere. You won't make it past the outer wall. I have to try. Something flickered in his eyes. Respect, maybe, or irritation. Why? We're not hurting you. You're taking my life. We're keeping you alive. His control cracked, voice rising. Do you think this is fun for us? Babysitting a stubborn girl who doesn't understand she's already dead if we let her go. Juno. Miho appeared in the doorway, quiet voice cutting through tension like a knife. That's enough. The younger twin left without another word. All barely contained violence. Miho entered slowly, hands visible, a gesture of peace she didn't trust. He's not wrong, even if he's tactless. The men hunting us are ruthless. They'll use you to draw us out, torture you for information, kill you to send a message. This isn't cruelty, Amara. It's mercy. Some mercy. He almost smiled. I brought you something. Korean textbooks, medical journals, her laptop from her apartment. How he'd gotten it, she didn't want to know. Your education doesn't have to stop. I've arranged online courses. Amara stared at the books, something tight unwinding in her chest. Why? Because you saved my life when you could have walked away. That deserves something better than just survival. It was the kindness that broke her. Amara turned away before he could see tears. I want to call my mother. Not yet. It's not safe. She'll think I abandoned her. She'll think you're alive. That's enough for now. The door closed behind him, soft as a confession. Days blurred into each other. Amara overheard whispers from guards who forgot she understood broken Korean. Words like gong dong anai, shared wife, sangdang I yoja, the twins' woman. When she confronted them, Miho's expression was carefully neutral. Rumors are useful in our world. This one keeps you safe. How? Because, Juno said from behind her, making her jump. If people think you belong to both of us, killing you means war with the entire Lee family. It makes you untouchable. I don't belong to anyone. Then pretend, Miho said, his voice ice. Because pretending is what keeps you breathing. But pretending got harder when Juno ordered jollof rice from a Nigerian restaurant an hour away. When Miho left classical music playing low because he'd noticed she studied better with background noise. When they both started joining her for dinner, not to guard her but to talk. Miho told her about medical school dreams abandoned for family duty. Juno confessed he'd wanted to be an artist before his mother's murder made him a weapon. And Amara, God help her, started seeing them as human. The announcement came 2 weeks in. Both twins dressed for business in matching dark suits, standing in her room like judges at sentencing. We're getting married, Miho said. All 3 of us, Juno added. Amara laughed. Sharp, slightly hysterical. You're insane. We're strategic. Miho produced papers from his jacket. A contract marriage. Legal, binding, internationally recognized through certain channels. It legitimizes the rumors and provides legal protection. I won't. You will. Juno's voice was flat, final. Because the alternative is death, Amara. Not from us, from them. And we've worked too hard keeping you alive to let you throw it away on principle. The contract was in Korean and English, dense with legal terminology. Amara's hands shook as she read. Marriage to Lee Miho and Lee Juno. Duration indefinite. Terms renegotiable under specific circumstances. Benefits. Full family protection, financial security, legal citizenship. Cost, everything. I need time. You have until tomorrow. Miho's tone was almost gentle. I'm sorry, Amara, but time is the one thing we can't give you. That night, alone, Amara cried for the girl she'd been 3 weeks ago, the one who'd thought kindness was simple, who hadn't known that saving one life could cost her own. In the morning, with dawn breaking over soul like a promise or a threat, She signed her name on the contract. Mrs. Lee. Belonging to monsters. Owned by twins. The ceremony happened in the estate's private chapel at midnight, witnessed only by the Don and 2 lawyers who signed documents with the solemnity of pallbearers. Amara wore white. Not a wedding dress, but a simple hanbok that made her feel like a ghost. The twins flanked her in matching black suits, and when the officiant asked if she took them as husbands, her yes tasted like ashes. 2 rings, 2 vows. One bride caught between them like a sacrifice on an altar built from necessity. You are now bound, the Don said, his voice like gravel and old blood. His eyes, the same dark eyes his sons inherited, assessed Amara with the calculation of a man appraising livestock. In law, in name, the Lee family protects its own. It should have felt like salvation. Instead, it felt like being buried alive in silk. Back in her room, their room now technically, though the twins still kept separate quarters, Amara stared at the rings on her finger. Platinum bands, simple and expensive, claiming her in a language the whole underworld would understand. Mrs. Lee. Twice over. She hated how safe it made her feel. The first week of marriage passed in surreal normalcy. Breakfast with Miho, who read newspapers in 3 languages and asked about her coursework. Dinners with Juno, who taught her Korean curse words and laughed when she tried pronouncing them. Nights alone, wondering when they'd demand what the contract implied they were owed. But they didn't touch her, didn't push. Just watched with an intensity that made her skin prickle. The shift came 2 weeks in. Amara noticed it first in the guards' faces, tension where there'd been routine, whispered conversations that stopped when she approached. Security detail doubled, then tripled. Suddenly she couldn't walk to the library without 4 men flanking her. Miho started taking calls at odd hours, voice low and urgent behind closed doors. Juno came back from meetings with split knuckles and blood on his collar, not bothering to hide it. The air in the estate thickened with something toxic, fear dressed as vigilance. On the 15th night of her marriage, Amara found Juno in the gym at 3 a.m., beating a punching bag like it had personally offended him. His knuckles were raw, bleeding through inadequate tape. Sweat plastered his hair to his forehead, and his eyes looked hunted. You're going to break your hands, she said from the doorway. He didn't stop. Not the worst thing I could break. Amara crossed the gym, grabbed his wrist mid-swing. What's going on? And don't tell me nothing. I'm not stupid. Juno stared at her hand on his wrist. Small, brown, steady against his pale skin. When he spoke, his voice was raw. You should be terrified of me. I am. I'm more terrified of not knowing why everyone's acting like I'm about to disappear. Because you might. He pulled away, started unwrapping his ruined hands. We found out who attacked Miho. Amara's heart stuttered. Who? Family. The word landed like a bomb. Someone inside our organization. Someone close enough to know Miho's route that night, skilled enough to nearly kill him, smart enough to frame it as a rival attack. The world tilted. But why? Succession. Miho's voice came from behind her. She hadn't heard him enter. He moved like smoke, all silent grace. Our father is dying. Cancer. He has maybe a year. Whoever controls the twins controls the empire after he's gone. And a house divided, Juno added bitterly, is easier to conquer. Kill one twin, turn the other into a weapon of revenge. Watch the family tear itself apart. Amara's mind raced. You said the men who stabbed Miho saw my face. If it was family, they know exactly who I am. Miho's expression was carved from ice. They've known since that night. Then why am I still alive? The twins exchanged that look again, the silent conversation that excluded everyone else. Because, Miho said carefully, you're more valuable alive. You saw something in that alley. Something you don't even remember seeing. Amara's breath caught. The man running past me. The memory surfaced like a body from dark water. Expensive suit, quick stride, face half hidden by rain and shadow. I barely looked at him. But you could identify him, Juno said, voice urgent now. If you saw him again in the right light. Your brain recorded it, even if you weren't paying attention. Who is he? Miho pulled out his phone, swiped through photos. 3 faces appeared. Uncle Hyunwoo, our father's advisor since before we were born. Min-jae, our cousin, ambitious, resentful. Or Sang-woo, our stepmother's brother. One of them hired those men, Juno said. One of them tried to kill me. One of them wants you dead before you remember which. The faces blurred. Amara had seen them all at dinners, meetings, family gatherings where she was paraded through like evidence of the twins' unity. Any of them could have been the shadow in the rain. If they find out you're starting to remember, Juno said, they'll move fast, violently. So what do we do? Miho stepped closer, and suddenly the air felt thick, charged. We make you untouchable. Completely, legally, politically. And by Mafia law. I thought the marriage. The marriage is paper, Juno said. His hand found her wrist, thumb pressing against her racing pulse. In our world, a marriage isn't real until it's consummated. Until then, you're still just a contract of convenience. Amara's mouth went dry. And after, Miho moved to her other side, boxing her between them. Not threatening but inevitable. You become sacred. True wife. Killing you would trigger blood oaths, alliance wars, retribution from every family that's ever dealt with us. Even our traitor won't risk that. It's not about desire, Miho said, but his hand was still on her wrist. His eyes dark with something that looked dangerously like want. It's strategy, Juno added, but his gaze dropped to her mouth and stayed there. Survival. Amara's heart hammered. She should feel violated, objectified, reduced to a game piece. Instead, she felt seen, protected, claimed in a way that made her skin flush and her breath quicken despite every rational thought screaming this was wrong. When? The word escaped before courage failed. Juno's smile was sharp as broken glass. Tonight. And Amara realized with terrible clarity. The monsters weren't just protecting her anymore. They were falling. And so, God help her, was she. The attack came at 9 p.m., 3 hours before midnight, before consummation, before safety. Amara was in the library when the first explosion shattered the east wall. The building shook, books tumbling from shelves like casualties. Emergency lights flooded red, and somewhere an alarm shrieked like a dying animal. Miho materialized in the doorway, gun drawn, face transformed into something cold and lethal. With me. Now. Ran. Through corridors suddenly filled with smoke and shouting, past guards taking positions, downstairs she didn't know existed. Miho's hand was iron around her wrist, dragging her forward when her legs couldn't keep pace with terror. The panic room was hidden behind a false wall in the wine cellar. Steel reinforced, soundproof, stocked for a siege. Miho shoved her inside, followed, sealed the door with a code only the family knew. Silence fell like a curtain. Outside muffled chaos. Inside just their ragged breathing and the drumbeat of adrenaline. Juno, Amara started. Leading the defense. He's better at that than I am. Miho checked his gun with practiced efficiency, then locked eyes with her. You stay here no matter what you hear. Understand? What if they get through? His smile was terrible. They won't. But Amara saw the lie in the tension of his shoulders, the white-knuckle grip on his weapon. For the first time since she'd met him, Lee Miho looked afraid. You never wanted this, she said suddenly. Any of it. The violence, the empire. He froze. What? You wanted to be a doctor. Juno told me. Before your mother died, before you became this. Something cracked in his expression. That boy died with her. Did he? Her hand found his chest, feeling his heart race beneath expensive fabric. Or did he just learn to hide? Miho stared at her like she'd performed magic. Slowly, he holstered the gun and lifted his shirt, revealing the scar she'd made. Crude stitching, puckered flesh, a life saved by desperate hands. You gave me something no one in this world ever has, he whispered. A choice to live. Not because I was valuable or strategic or necessary, but because you couldn't let someone die. That simple. Amara's throat tightened. I couldn't watch you bleed. I've been bleeding my whole life. You were the first person who bothered to stop it. The distance between them evaporated. His hand cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. Amara's breath hitched as he leaned down, close enough that she could count his eyelashes, see gold flecks in dark irises. The explosion threw them apart. Closer. Louder. The panic room's lights flickered. The door unsealed with a pneumatic hiss. Juno stood in the opening, backlit by emergency red, covered in blood that might or might not be his. His eyes found Amara, scanned her for damage, then cut to his brother with accusation sharp as knives. 3 guards dead. Attackers scattered. They left a message. Miho's face went glacial. Show me. They emerged into chaos. Smoke, blood, shattered glass. Guards moved with military precision, securing perimeter, tending wounded. And on the estate's outer wall, carved deep enough to scar stone, Amara, name, her death sentence, written in letters 3 feet tall. They know, Juno said unnecessarily. They know we're protecting her, and they know why. We should have moved faster, Miho said, voice Arctic fury. I said that weeks ago. Juno whirled on his brother, tension finally snapping. We've been playing defense while they pick us apart. This is on you. On me. You wanted to rush her, force her. To save her life, which is more than your careful planning has done. Amara watched them fracture. 2 halves of a whole splitting down fault lines of fear and helplessness and something raw. You're in love with her, Juno accused, voice ragged. Admit it. Miho's silence was answer enough. And you're not. The older twins' response was surgical, precise, devastating. Juno's laugh was broken glass. We're so screwed. A guard approached, holding a phone. Sir, it's for Mrs. Lee. Amara's blood froze. No one should have this number. She grabbed the phone, ignored the twins' protest. Hello, Amara. Oh God, Amara. Chidinma's voice was shredded with tears. Men came. They had guns. They destroyed everything. They said your name. They said if we heard from you. Sobbing cut through words. What did you do? Who are these people? The world collapsed. Chidinma Ngozi blessing. Her friends, her family. Threatened because she'd been stupid enough to save a stranger. Selfish enough to survive. I'm so sorry, Amara whispered. I never meant. They said you were dead. Are you dead, Amara? Are you a ghost? I have to go. Wait. Amara ended the call. Let the phone clatter to bloody concrete. Everyone she touched turned to ash. Every kindness became a weapon. She was a curse in human form. And the only way to break it was to remove herself from the equation. Ran. Stupid, desperate, inevitable. Made it to the front gate before Juno caught her. Grabbed her waist. Spun her around with barely contained violence. Are you insane? They're out there waiting. Then let them have me. Amara beat her fists against his chest. Useless as rain against stone. My friends are being hunted because of me. Your guards are dying because of me. Everyone I touch gets hurt. And I can't. So your solution is suicide. Juno shook her, face twisted with fury and anguish. You think dying will fix this? It'll stop people from getting killed protecting me. It'll destroy us. The confession ripped from him like shrapnel. You think we can just let you go, watch you die? You're ours, Amara. You've been ours since the moment you pressed your hands against my brother's wounds and refused to let him bleed out. You don't get to take that back. Amara collapsed against him, sobs tearing through her chest. Juno caught her, held her, and for the first time since she'd met him, his hands were gentle. I'm so tired, she whispered. I know. He lifted her bridal style, protective, possessive. But you don't get to give up. Not while we're still breathing. Over his shoulder, Amara saw Miho watching them with an expression that shattered her. Hope and heartbreak and devotion so fierce it burned. She'd wanted to be a hero. Instead, she'd become the thing monsters fought to keep. And somehow, impossibly, that felt like being loved. They brought her to the study, the same room where this nightmare had begun. Rain still fell against those massive windows. Seoul still glittered below like a city of false promises. But everything else had changed. Amara stood before the twins, salt-tracked face and trembling hands, while they watched her with expressions carved from different kinds of pain. Miho's was controlled, surgical, a man dissecting his own heart. Juno's was raw, bleeding, a wound refusing to close. We can't do this anymore, Miho said finally, each word deliberate as a scalpel cut. We can't protect someone who doesn't want to be protected. And we can't love someone who keeps trying to leave. Juno's voice cracked on love. The word he'd probably never said aloud before tonight. The admission hung between them like confession and accusation both. Love. Amara's laugh was broken. You don't love me. Can't. This is strategy, protection, political. Stop. Miho moved closer, slow as approaching something wild. Stop hiding behind what this was supposed to be and see what it became. I didn't want to love you. The confession came from him like pulling shrapnel from a wound. Love is weakness in this world. Leverage. A knife your enemies use to cut you open. I've watched love destroy men, make them careless, reckless. I swore I'd never. He stopped, jaw clenched. But you make me want to be weak. I've killed men for less than what you make me feel, Juno added, intensity burning like phosphorus. Killed them for disrespect, for disloyalty, for looking at me wrong. But you. His hand found her face, thumb catching tears she couldn't stop. You make me feel everything I've spent years learning not to feel. And I'd kill 1,000 more to keep you. Not because your strategy, because losing you would destroy me. Both of us, Miho corrected quietly. It would destroy both of us. The twins stood on either side of her, two halves of a whole, different but inseparable, loving her in languages that somehow said the same thing. I don't understand, Amara whispered. How can this be real? How can I? The next word stuck in her throat, too terrifying to release. Love us both, Miho replied gently. Is that what you're afraid to admit? It's wrong. People don't, you can't. But even as she protested, her heart was screaming the truth. She'd fallen for Miho's quiet intensity, the way he brought her textbooks and asked about her dreams. Fallen for Juno's fierce protection, the way he made her laugh even when the world was burning. How can I choose between you? You don't have to choose. Miho's hand found her other cheek, so now they held her face between them like something precious. We're two halves of the same whole. We've never been separate, Amara. Not since birth. Not in business. Not in this. You saved one of us, Juno said, voice rough with emotion. But you belong to both of us. That's not strategy. That's truth. Amara closed her eyes, tears spilling hot. I'm so scared. Of us. Of this. Of caring about you. Of what happens when. Her voice broke. Everyone I love gets hurt. Then we're already hurt, Miho said simply. The damage is done. The only question is whether you'll let us love you anyway. Let us keep you, Juno added. Not as a prisoner. Ours. Willingly. The word hung there, willingly. Offering her the choice they'd taken away weeks ago. Stay not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Before Amara could answer, her mind snagged on something. A detail surfacing from that rainy night like a body from deep water. The ring, she said suddenly. Both twins stilled. What? The man I saw running from the alley. Amara's eyes flew open, the memory crystallizing with sudden terrible clarity. He had a ring. Heavy gold, old-fashioned, with a crest. A tiger and crane twisted together. The color drained from Miho's face. Juno's hand dropped from her cheek, curling into a fist. That's Uncle Hyunwoo's ring, Miho said, voice hollow. Our family crest. The one our father gave him when he became chief advisor. Uncle Hyunwoo. Juno's laugh was acid. The man who raised us after our mother died. Who taught me how to shoot, how to fight, how to be ruthless. He tried to kill you, Amara said, and framed it as a rival attack to start a war. Take out one twin, Miho finished. His strategic mind already 3 steps ahead. Use the other's grief as a weapon. Wait for father to die. Then eliminate whoever's left standing. Control the empire through chaos. The betrayal was a living thing, ugly and visceral. Amara watched it break something in both of them. The last piece of innocence, the final illusion that family meant safety. We can trap him, Juno said after a long moment, violence creeping back into his voice. Now that we know. The family gathering. Miho's eyes sharpened, calculating. 3 days from now. Every high-ranking member will be there. We make Amara identify him publicly, with witnesses. He can't retaliate without exposing himself further. And after? Amara asked, though she already knew. After, the consummation happens immediately, Juno said, his gaze dark, hungry, protective. Before he can organize a countermove. Once you're a true wife by Mafia law, killing you means war with every allied family. Even Uncle Hyun-woo won't risk that. He'll use those 3 days to make his move, Miho warned. It'll be dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous, Amara said. Fear threaded through her, but something stronger rose beneath it. Determination, fury, love that had grown teeth. I'll do it. Amara. I'll do it, she repeated, stepping forward so she stood between them, no longer caught but choosing. I'll identify him. I'll testify. I'll seal this marriage. All of it. Why? Miho's question was soft, searching. Amara looked at him, at the man who'd become her peace. Then at Juno, who'd become her fire. Because I'm already in love with both of you, and I'm done running from it. The confession hung in the air like a vow. Juno moved first, crushing his mouth to hers with desperate intensity. The kiss was fierce, claiming, tasting like relief and promise. When he pulled back, Miho was there. His kiss different, slower, deeper, like drowning in still water. When they broke apart, all three were breathing hard. We'll keep you safe, Miho promised, forehead pressed to hers. Always, Juno added, his hand finding hers, threading their fingers together. And Amara, who'd spent her whole life saving others, finally let herself be saved. The gathering was pageantry disguised as family dinner. 60 people in formal dress, seated at tables laden with enough food to feed a village. Crystal chandeliers cast diamond light across faces that smiled while calculating advantage. This was power concentrated, dangerous, beautiful as a blade. Amara entered on the twins' arms, and the room's breath stopped. She wore a hanbok the color of deep burgundy, embroidered with gold cranes that caught light with every movement. Her hair was styled traditional, adorned with jade pins worth more than her entire education. She looked like what she was, a queen walking into battle. The whispers started immediately. Twins' wife, their shared woman, the outsider who'd captured both brothers. Uncle Hyun-woo sat at the head table beside the Don, his expression carefully neutral. But Amara saw the calculation in his eyes, the barely contained rage. He knew. He knew what was coming. Dinner was theater, courses appearing with military precision while conversation flowed in careful rivers of politics and veiled threats. Amara barely tasted the food, her stomach clenched too tight with anticipation. Miho's hand found hers under the table, steady. On her other side, Juno's thigh pressed against hers, solid and warm. Halfway through the main course, Miho stood. Silverware stilled. Conversations died. Our wife has something to share, he announced, voice carrying across the sudden silence. About the night I was attacked. Every eye turned to Amara. She felt their weight, judgment, curiosity, calculation. But she also felt the twins beside her, anchoring her. She rose on shaking legs. I saw him, she said, voice stronger than she felt. The man who ran from the alley before I found Miho bleeding. I saw his face. And I saw his ring. Uncle Hyun-woo's expression didn't change. A master's control. The Lee family crest, Amara continued, her finger lifting to point directly at him. Worn by Uncle Hyun-woo. You tried to kill him. Chaos erupted, shouting, chairs scraping back, hands reaching for concealed weapons. Uncle Hyun-woo surged to his feet, face twisted with fury. Lies. An outsider trying to divide this family. She's manipulating my nephews, turning them against their own blood. Is she? Juno dropped a folder on the table, contents spilling across white linen. Financial records showing money transferred to known assassins. Communication logs between you and rival families. Security footage of you meeting with the men who attacked my brother. His smile was a razor blade. We've been watching you, Uncle. Waiting for you to make a mistake. Uncle Hyun-woo's mask cracked. His hand moved faster than thought, pulling a gun from inside his jacket. The room exploded, guards moving, guests diving for cover, the Don's cold voice cutting through pandemonium. But Uncle Hyun-woo's gun wasn't aimed at the twins. It was aimed at Amara. You should have died in that alley, he snarled. Two things happened simultaneously. Juno's body slammed into Amara, driving her to the floor. Miho's hand struck Uncle Hyunwoo's wrist with surgical precision, sending the gun spinning. But Uncle Hyunwoo had planned for failure. Through the shattered window, a red laser dot appeared, sniper positioned on the adjacent building. The dot found Amara where she lay beneath Juno, tracking across her chest toward her heart. Both twins moved to shield her. The shot cracked like thunder. Juno jerked, blood blooming across his shoulder like a flower. He stayed covering Amara, his weight pressing her safe against marble while guards returned fire. Somewhere glass shattered. Someone screamed. The sniper's second shot never came. When the chaos settled, Uncle Hyunwoo was pinned by 6 guards. The Don stood over him with an expression carved from permafrost. "You've betrayed everything," the old man said quietly. "Your honor, your family, your life." Uncle Hyunwoo spat blood. "This empire should have been mine. I've served you for 30 years while your sons play at being kings." The Don's gun appeared with geriatric speed. "You'll receive Mafia justice tonight." They dragged Uncle Hyunwoo away, his screams fading into the estate's dark heart. Amara crawled from beneath Juno, her hands finding his face. "You're bleeding." "Oh God, I'm fine." His smile was pain-edged but real. "Takes more than 1 bullet to kill me. You took it for me." Tears blurred her vision. "I take 100, he said simply. In the medical wing, while a doctor worked on Juno's shoulder, the Don approached Amara. Up close, he looked ancient, a man held together by will and violence, death already whispering in his bones. "You've brought honor to my sons," he said, his assessment clinical, "and chaos to my family. I'm sorry." "Don't be." His hand, liver-spotted and heavy, settled on her shoulder. "Chaos reveals truth. You are truly a Lee now, my daughter, their wife." His eyes, so like his son's, held something almost like warmth. "Welcome to the family, Amara." Uncle Hyunwoo's execution happened at midnight in the courtyard. Amara didn't watch, but she heard the single gunshot, final as a period. Later, in the twins' private quarters, Amara tended Juno's bandaged shoulder while Miho watched from the doorway. The room was quiet except for breathing. The danger finally passed, leaving only truth in its wake. "You took a bullet for me," Amara whispered again, still unable to process it. Juno's good hand caught her wrist, pulled her closer until she was pressed against his uninjured side. "I'd take 100,000, until my body was more holes than flesh. Because losing you isn't an option." Miho crossed the room, his presence completing their triangle. "It's done. The threat is gone. You're safe now." "We're safe," Amara corrected. "All of us." The word hung there, acknowledging what they'd become. Not captive and captors, not strategy and asset, but something beyond convention, beyond judgment. Love that existed outside normal boundaries. Fierce and true. What followed was inevitable, sacred. Miho's kiss was slow exploration, tasting like promise. Juno's was fire and possession, his good hand tangling in her hair. Together they undressed her like unwrapping something precious, reverent, careful, devastatingly thorough. The consummation wasn't explicit. It was poetry, hands learning new languages, breath shared between 3 mouths. The way they moved together, not competing but completing. 2 halves of a whole worshipping the piece that made them more than the sum of parts. Gentle, overwhelming, sacred. When it was done, Amara lay between them, all 3 breathing hard, foreheads touching in silent vow. Miho's hand covered her heart. Juno's lips pressed against her temple. And Amara finally completely felt safe. "Ours," they whispered together. "Yours," she agreed. The marriage was sealed. The family was whole. And love, impossible, unconventional, fierce, had won. 3 months later, Seoul University's nursing building looked different with 4 bodyguards trailing behind her. Students whispered, professors treated her with cautious respect, but Amara had learned to wear her new identity like armor. Mrs. Lee, wife to the city's most powerful twins, but still herself underneath. She aced her exam on trauma response. The irony wasn't lost on her. "Good?" Juno asked when she emerged, his hand immediately finding hers. "Perfect," she said and meant it. The apartment where Chidinma, Ngozi, and Blessing now lived was in Gangnam. 3 bedrooms, modern appliances, safe. Amara visited weekly, bringing Nigerian food and laughter that felt like home. Her friends had forgiven her, mostly because they'd seen the twins and understood some forces were simply inevitable. "You're glowing," Chidinma said during last week's visit, eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Either you're pregnant or in love." Maybe both, Amara thought, but kept the secret tucked close. The biggest miracle sat in the estate's guest wing. Her mother, flown first class from Lagos, receiving treatment from Seoul's best neurologists. The Parkinson's wasn't cured, but it was managed, controlled. Her mother's hands shook less now when they held Amara's face. "NWAM," Mama whispered in Igbo. "My daughter, you've become a queen." "I'm still me," Amara insisted. But she wasn't, not entirely. The girl who'd saved a stranger had evolved into a woman who sat in family meetings and suggested humanitarian initiatives, who'd learned to read the dangerous language of Mafia politics, who could smile at enemies while wearing a gun strapped to her thigh. Juno's insistence, and she'd learned he was usually right about danger. She was still kind, still compassionate. But now there was steel beneath the softness, a spine forged in fire and love. The Don was dying slowly, his empire passing piece by piece to his sons. Amara had become their balance, the humanitarian voice in a world of violence, reminding them that power could heal as well as harm. Miho wrote her poetry in Korean that she painstakingly translated, verses about blood and redemption, darkness finding light. He was her peace, her steady ground, the one who held her when nightmares came. Juno taught her Krav Maga in the estate gym, refusing to let her be helpless ever again. He was her fire, her fierce protector, the one who made her laugh until her ribs ached. Together they were her whole world, different loves, same depth. Her heart had learned to hold them both without breaking. At sunset, Amara stood on the balcony overlooking Seoul's glittering expanse. Miho's arms circled her waist from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. Juno's hand found hers, threading their fingers together with casual possession. This was home. Not the estate, not the city. This, the space between 2 heartbeats, sheltered by the men who'd claimed her, saved her, loved her beyond reason. "I saved a dying man in an alley," she thought, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of ending and beginning. "And somehow, he and his brother saved me right back." "What are you thinking?" Miho murmured against her ear. Amara's free hand drifted to her stomach where a secret was growing. New life, new hope, the future they'd fought for taking root. She smiled, leaning back into Miho's warmth while squeezing Juno's hand. "That maybe some rules are meant to be broken." Their laughter wrapped around her like a promise. And for the first time since that rainy night, Amara knew exactly where she belonged. So we've reached the end of another incredible journey. If you enjoyed this story, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below. Are you Team Miho, Team Juno, or are you brave enough to admit you'd choose both? And here's the real question. Should Amara have twin boys or a girl? Let me know what you think. I'll see you in the next one.